14-year-old Abby Hernandez from the United States left school and disappeared without a trace. The police and FBI were looking for her, but they didn't have a single piece of evidence. 9 months later, this mysterious case suddenly revealed itself, shocking all of America. In this investigation, we restored the chronology of events and talked about how even the most terrible tragedies can have a happy ending. Abigail Hernandez was just 14 years old when she was kidnapped while walking home from school, and then held in a windowless storage container just 30 miles from her home in New Hampshire. Abby Hernandez was an excellent student and talented athlete at Kennett High School in North Conway, New Hampshire. She was just days shy of turning 15 when she vanished into thin air on October 9, 2013, and was held captive in a storage container for 9 months before she was able to escape. The search for Abby Hernandez was one of the largest in New Hampshire history. Her face appeared on missing person posters posted in every neighborhood, and speculation and wild rumors flooded the once tranquil town. Several months passed before she miraculously appeared on her doorstep in July 2014. To the shock of her mother and investigators, Hernandez was being held captive just 30 miles from the city. The teenager was repeatedly sexually assaulted by her captor Nathaniel Kibbe, but she also won him over for friendship in the hope that their connection would one day help her escape. If I were going to write a textbook on how victims should deal with kidnappings, the first chapter would be about Abby, says former FBI profiler Brad Garrett. It's always about being attached to the bad guy. Abigail Hernandez was born on October 12, 1998, in Manchester, New Hampshire, and until October 2013, she had a completely normal childhood. Adults who knew her noted her athletic success as a teenager, and classmates at Kennett High School described her as a kind, positive, and cheerful person. This favor was cruelly taken from her shortly after entering the 9th grade. After graduating from high school and enjoying the summer of 2013, Hernandez was walking home from her new school when she disappeared. Living with her mother Zanio and sister Sarah, Hernandez never returned home later than the agreed time. When she did not return home by 7 p.m. on October 9, 2013, her mother filed a missing person report. With no domestic problems at home and no reason to escape, her family and police feared the worst. Their intuition was correct, as Hernandez had already been kidnapped. Her captor, Nathaniel Kibbe, was primarily involved in petty crime, printing counterfeit money out of his trailer. Without warning, he turned into a kidnapper. And with Abby in captivity, he would soon begin to do much worse. The investigation dragged on for a month. All this time, her mother could not find a place for herself and maintain the usual rhythm of life. Because of this, she did not look into the mailbox for a long time, which she later regretted. There was a letter from Abby there. The letter was sent 13 days after the girl disappeared. Its contents delighted the mother, but it also raised a number of questions. Dear Mom, I miss you and love you more than you can imagine. I'm sorry I did that. I read the newspapers and watched the report. Yes, I'm alive. I miss you, Mom, but I won't tell you where I am. Forensic scientists examined the DNA on the paper and confirmed that Abby wrote the letter. Her mother also stated that the text was written by her daughter, but the content itself turned out to be completely illogical. Then my mother admitted that Abby was forced to write these lines. The police waited another month before releasing the letter. They assumed that public disclosure of its very existence could put Abby at even greater risk. What if the girl is being held captive and managed to send this letter without her captors knowing? There is little logic here. Why didn't Abby provide any details so they could help her? But the police didn't want to take any risks. When the letter was finally published, it became the main topic of discussion in the small town. Most people immediately believed that Abby simply ran away and began to condemn her and her family. Some were indignant that because of an ordinary escape, the police put everyone on their ears, throwing half of the city away. At this point, the investigation essentially stalled. Abby seemed to have disappeared, and the police could find no trace of her. This continued until July 20, 2014, until the solution appeared on its own, instantly making this story a sensation. 9 months after her disappearance, Abby appeared on her doorstep. If you already think that the girl really ran away, don't rush to conclusions. Arriving home, where she was met by her shocked mother, Abby said that she had been kidnapped. On that ill-fated day when the girl disappeared, she walked home from school. Despite the fact that the city was small, the distance was decent. At some point, a car stopped near the girl, and the driver offered to give her a ride. Abby agreed because she was already tired and had chafing on her feet from her new boots. At first, everything was fine. A middle-aged man was driving towards her house until he suddenly turned into an empty parking lot. Abby realized she might be in danger and tried to get out of the car. But the man pulled out a weapon and ordered her not to move. He handcuffed and capped Abby so that she could not see the road, and then drove off in an unknown direction. All the way, Abby tried to convince the stranger to let her go. She promised not to tell anyone about what had happened, but he continued to drive until an acquaintance brought the girl to his house 30 miles from her city. There he locked Abby in a large metal container equipped as a room. Then the kidnapper made special mistakes on her and explained to the girls that he would send an electric current every time she tried to scream. He also stated that the container door is connected to a mechanism that will set everything on fire if anyone tries to save Abby. Since then, the girl has been in captivity and subjected to regular violence. From the first days, she decided to ingratiate herself with the kidnapper in order to get a chance for release. She constantly said that she didn't blame him for anything and understood his motives. Abby also promised not to tell anyone about what happened if he let her go. As the months passed, the captor actually began to trust his captive more. Gradually, he began to take her from the container to his house, where the man was printing counterfeit money. In this way, he made a living, and from a certain moment, Abby, at his request, began to help him in this matter. Over time, the man became increasingly less vigilant. He began to believe that Abby would never actually try to escape, and that she even enjoyed spending time with him. Thanks to this, one day he made his first serious mistake. Puffer gave Abby some cookbooks to help her learn how to cook. In one of them, the property was written to Nathaniel Kibbe. Then Abby asked, "Who is this Kibbe?" And he just sighed and said, "How do you know my name?" Her attempts to soften Kibbe were initially unsuccessful. He threw her into a storage container in his yard, where she was subjected to daily abuse and routine sexual harassment. Kibbe eventually allowed Abby Hernandez into his trailer to help him print counterfeit money. However, the situation did not change. He soon demanded that she call him master and presented her with a new instrument of torture. But during Abby Hernandez's 9 months with Nathaniel Kibbe, he began to get closer to her. In July 2014, Nate Kibbe received a disturbing call from Lauren Mende, a woman he met online. Mende told him that she had been arrested for parsing counterfeit $50 bills, and that she told police that Kibbe had printed them. Kibbe was scared, and he soon began getting rid of everything in his house, including Abby Hernandez. And on July 20, 2014, he drove a 15-year-old girl back to North Conway and dropped her off a stone's throw from the abduction site, making her promise not to turn him in. Hernandez walked the last mile to her mother's house. "I remember looking up and laughing, just being so happy," Hernandez said. "Oh my God, this really happened. I'm a free man. I never thought this would happen to me, but I'm free." Hernandez told police the identity of her abductor was a mystery. According to court documents released in November 2014, she provided police only with a sketch of her abductor and hid his name from everyone except her mother, Zania. Hernandez confided in her, saying that she did not provide law enforcement with all the necessary information and moreover knew who her kidnapper was. And on July 27, 2014, Zania Hernandez gave detectives Kibbe's name, which led to his arrest and a search of his property. Kibbe was initially charged with kidnapping and held on $1 million bail, but spent 2 years in jail before pleading guilty to 6 other crimes, including second-degree assault and sexual assault. A trial of the kidnapper dragged on for several years. He pleaded guilty in 2016 and received 45 to 90 years in prison. Kibbe was 34 years old at the time of her abduction, so he will spend either most of the rest of his life behind bars or his entire life. Abby also attended the trial. There she stated that despite all the horror Kibbe put her through, she forgives him. The girl said that what happened made her appreciate her life and freedom in a new way. Now Abby and her boyfriend are raising a child. The girl continues to live life to the fullest. Despite everything that she had to go through, her story clearly demonstrates to us that a person can get out of the most terrible situations if he strives for it. Leading criminal psychologists cite Abby's behavior as an example of how to behave during a kidnapping. After all, the girl did everything necessary to save her life. Although this event left an indelible mark on her, she continues to live and love this life.